Hi, I'm going to be showing you how to use a Boomerang 3 phrase sampler. So let's start by talking about creating a loop. And this is the case for any looping pedal, not necessarily just the Boomerang. Make sure you know exactly when you're starting and stopping your loop. If you start it too early, there's going to be a gap at the beginning of your loop. And if you stop it too late, then there's going to be a gap at the end of your loop. So either way, it sounds like there's this awkward gap. So if I want to loop 1 bar of quarter notes, 1/4/4 bars, so 4 beats, that means I'm going to start my loop exactly when I start playing, and I'm going to end my loop on beat 1 of the next bar, even though I won't be playing. And this is for rhythmic accuracy, so I'll show this. Now, you'll hear that there is a slight gap. That's because my pedaling wasn't perfect, but it's definitely close enough to have a decent loop and to build things off of it. So now getting into the actual pedal. If you'll notice, when I start to record on loop 1, the 2 buttons here where it says serial sync, see these 2 lights? When I start with loop 1 or loop 2 in this serial sync mode, it'll just be serial mode. So now the only light that's lit up is serial. Or if I erase that, excuse me, and start on loop 1, it's still only serial. Now, notice that if I start on loop 3, it says serial sync. So the difference between serial and serial sync is that in serial sync mode, loop 3 is the master loop. If you'll notice, it says master right there. So once you start something on loop 3 in serial sync mode, that means all the other loops, loops 1 and 2, or optional loop 4, are tied to your master loop. So if I record 1 bar, then everything will be recorded in relation to that 1 bar. Now to show an example, I'll record 1 bar of quarter notes. Now I want you to notice, above loop 3, it's kind of hard to see with my camera, but the light blinks slightly. Blink at the start of the loop. This is important to know because if you lose your place, you can see that the loop is starting when the light blinks. It's important to know when your loop is starting when you're using a master loop because, again, each loop is related time-wise. So that means if loop 3 is playing, my master loop is playing, and I want to record on loop 2, I can press the button for loop 2 at any point while loop 3 is playing. And the light above loop 2 will start blinking. This means that it's armed. See, it's armed now, and now it's recording. So the difference between armed and recording, the blinking light armed means that it's getting ready to record. And once the light is steady, it's telling you that it's recording. And it's lined up with the beginning of the loop. So if you can see the blinking light, I'm going to arm it and see if you can tell that the loop 2 is starting to record. And it'll start now. So now loop 3 is playing and loop 2 is recording. And then once I press the pedal again, loop 2 has stopped recording and will play. So if you noticed, when I pressed loop 2 to stop it, it was blinking again. So arming works for both starting and stopping a loop that's tied to your master loop. You can press the loop at any point while you're recording if your master loop is going, and then within that time frame of the master loop, it'll be armed to stop as soon as the master loop starts over. So let's record something. notice I actually pressed the pedal before I stopped playing, but it still recorded for the full bar. Let's try this again with a longer loop 2. Or instead, let's do it on loop 1. So loop 2 was also just 1 bar, but your loops don't have to be 1 bar long. They don't have to be the same length as the master. In fact, it's easier if you record a shorter master loop. That way you can make loops 1 and 2 as long as you want them to be, as long as they're still on the same time signature. So this is 1 bar of 4/4, and this is 1 bar of 4/4. So now let's record 2 bars of 4/4 on loop 1. So, now that we've had those recorded, how do we play different loops at the same time? The thing about serial mode and serial sync mode is that only one loop will play at a time. Everything you're learning about serial sync mode is tied to loop 3, but the concepts are similar if you just do one loop at a time. So, in serial sync, loop 3 will play as long as you want it to play, as long as the button is pressed, but only loop 1 or 2 will play with loop 3. You can't have all 3 loops playing at the same time in serial sync mode. The concept of arming is the same here, where if you want to switch from loop 2 to loop 1, you can arm loop 1 while loop 2 is playing. So I'll show this. We're going to arm loop 2, now it's playing. Starting over. Then we're going to arm loop 1, and it'll start playing as soon as loop 3 gets to the new one. Notice how loop 2 shut off. So with the master loop, only one loop will play at a time, and that's serial sync mode. The difference with serial mode is only one loop will ever play at a time, but they're not connected time-wise. So you can make this 3 bars long, loop 3, and loop 1 a bar and a half. They're not tied in time at all, as long as you start on loop 1 or 2 in serial sync mode. Starting on loop 3 puts it in serial sync, and starting on loop 1 or 2 puts it in serial. So now, staying in serial sync, if we want to stack to add harmonies, if you'll look at this wheel, you'll see yellow lights and green lights. So the yellow light is controlled by the tap hold. Oh, excuse me, that was volume. So you have to hold down the bonus assign button, and now that the 4 is blinking, I know that I can change. So let's say I wanted to make this yellow bonus pedal a 4th looping pedal. Then I change the tap, the brighter color, all the way to loop 4. Now you'll notice the second yellow light is gone. So the brighter one is tap, and the dimmer one is hold. So if I wanted tap to be undo and hold to be octave, I can do so by changing the tap and hold. But once I go to loop 4, it has one function, just a tap. The same goes for the green lights. Now, you'll notice that this green bonus pedal won't go to loop 4. The only loop that you can make loop 4 is your yellow one, because they're all in a row. So if I wanted it to be reverse and fade, I can do that as well. So it's easiest, I think, to have always have stack and erase, because those are 2 that you use all the time. I've already used erase a bunch for you. And one thing to note, if all of your loops are off and you hold erase, it erases them all. So let's make another stack. Or let's make another set of loops and we'll start stacking. mode is you can't arm stack. It starts and ends exactly when you tap the button. So arming only works for recording original loops and playing original loops, but stacking and adding more recordings onto a loop that's already existing happens as soon as you tap the button. So this was the serial sync playstyle, and I'll make another video for the free mode.